Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Moving to the second section of the book, Practical Vedanta. When we say practical, what is referred here is this portion has a direct application to your spiritual evolution. In the first section, he gave the basic idea of Vedanta. And now he is moving to how Vedanta can be directly applied. You can directly use the material given here. Meaning, you have to work along with the book. Now it is no longer to be studied as a theoretical idea. For example, when you go to that section 3, the third section is more of ideas. There's nothing much to do there. But here you have to work along with the book. So this portion of the book is to be taken like a workbook. Every paragraph, every sentence, every page, every topic that you study can be applied directly. It is designed for direct application. So that is why this portion is referred as practical Vedanta. And here he starts with the study of human composition. What is a human being? And there are very many definitions we have for a human being. How you study a human personality. Fundamentally, we see he is studying that in 4 different angles. Once we go into that chapter, I'll explain. What are the 4 different angles? He studies the human personality. The study of that is essential for you to get familiarized with the technical terminologies that you would be seeing in the subsequent chapters. So in the subsequent chapters, when he is using those words, you should be familiar with it. What is referred as paribhasha. In any subject, when you study, you have to get the technical terms. In Tamil, we call them as kalai chokkal. Technical words. Same way, we have this paribhasha. In Sanskrit, it is referred as paribhasha. Now, every subject, you need to be familiarized with those terminologies. Say, for example, whenever we use the word subtle body, you should know what is the meaning of subtle body. We use the word causal body, you have to know what's the meaning of causal body. Tejasa, you say, well, you have to know what is it. Ishvara, you should know what it means. So each technical words which are required for you to get familiarized, he is explaining here. Once you get it, once you get the general idea about a human composition, you start applying it to your life. That is where self-analysis starts. Second chapter. I'm just giving you the bird's eye view of this portion. What is this? Practical Vedanta is. Each chapter will lead you to the next chapter. That's how the whole text is written. So every chapter is independent chapter, but at the same time, those chapters telescopes to the next chapter. Now, unless you are familiar with the previous, you can't get the best out of the next. So that's how it is done. So once you get the general idea about human composition, you apply that to your life. That is self-analysis. When you do the self-analysis, you do realize that you go through at different periods of time, you are assuming different personalities. You assume At one point of time, you assume one personality, another point of time, you assume another personality. That analysis is the next chapter, the states of consciousness. Through that states of consciousness, you posit and project and understand there is an underlying reality. I don't belong to the constricted, restricted personalities such as waker, dreamer, or deep sleeper. I'm beyond that. There is something beyond the three, and I don't belong to these three, I belong to that. That you understand. But then there is no realization of that. You can pose it, you can postulate it, you can intellectually come to a conclusion through the study of the states of consciousness that you belong to the fourth state. But then we don't know how to reach there. How do you reach there is the next chapter, the practice of the spiritual disciplines, the 4 yogas. Through the practice of the 4 yogas, Hatha Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga. Through the practice of these 3 yogas, you reach a state of renunciation. The next chapter. After you have reached that state of renunciation, you are qualified for the practice of meditation. Till then, you are not ready for meditation. Till then, yours is only this. Before that, you can't practice meditation. So after you reach that state of renunciation, you go and sit for meditation. The procedural details and everything he gives there. How you should do, what is the technique, what's the principle, etc. Same way, what is renunciation? What is the role of renunciation in your life? How renunciation precedes meditation. Why you have to reach that state of renunciation before meditation. All that he explains in renunciation and next topic, next chapter, meditation. And through meditation, you reach that state of realization. And what is that state of realization? What is that man of realization? Women also. Okay. What is that state of being realized? Who is a self-realized person? Who is that enlightened being? What is the meaning of enlightenment? What is his inner nature? And how does he live in the world? How he conducts himself in the world? All the study. With that, section 2 over. I think we can close the class. Job done. Practical Vedanta over. In 10 minutes. Because people always have this problem with me. They keep on complaining. You elaborate too much. You see. So I tell them, okay, I know how to condense also. The entire section condensed. But what you understand is the point. You see. So when we say spiritual path, I am going to apply myself in the spiritual effort. If I am going to go through, then you have to start from this, move here, move here, move here, move here. Very, very systematic. It's a very, systematic and logical approach for evolution we have. In this, the first chapter we have to do here is this human composition. Chapter 8, human composition. In this chapter is it's chapter 9 actually, it's not chapter 8, it's chapter 9. It is section 1 has 8 chapters. Section 2, 9 chapter onwards. It is starting. Idea. So the first one we study here is a basic constitution. What is the human being? Basic idea. Then composite personality. What is this composite personality of him? Personality layers is studied. Then the personality layers we study this Panchakosha analysis. It has the 5 koshas. Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha. These are the 5 koshas, sheets. Then gross, subtle and causal bodies. Sharira Trayam analysis. Concluding with waker, dreamer, deep sleeper. So there are 4 different angles I said is studying. Basic constitution, the composite personality, then comes the Panchakosha analysis, then moves on to the 3 body analysis. Macrocosm, microcosm, application and all that comes in. These are the 4 different ways he is analyzing the human personality here. Now, in the introduction, he has already explained to us the purpose of human life, as per explained by Vedanta, is to realize the self. If you have to realize the self, you have to know what is your basic personality is. The basic personality consists of 2 factors. The spirit component and the matter component. Now, remember, in this chapter, we don't have much of philosophy. Okay, this is more of anatomical study. This is more of anatomy here than philosophy. Philosophy starts only from the next chapter onwards. Okay, this chapter, the only thing that you are supposed to do with this chapter is to get it memorized. That's all. The whole chapter should come into your mind. So this is more of a chapter which is supposed to be just this. There's nothing here. Now here it says the basic human personality has 2 aspects. Matter component, which we all know, which we can transact with. And this matter component needs to be enlivened by something. There is no life in the matter. Matter by itself doesn't carry life. There is something in that matter that has enlivens it. See, this idea, don't try to understand. You just have to gulp it. That's all. You can't try to understand it, nor can you try to rationalize the whole thing. You can't do all that. There is no possibility of all this. You just have to swallow what is being said. But the example all of us can understand. You see, the example that he gives is very simple example. He says, there is no light in the bulb, there is no light in the electricity. When electricity comes in contact with the electric bulb, there is light. Similarly, when electricity comes in contact with the refrigerator, there is refrigeration. There is no refrigeration in the refrigerator by itself, etc. Now, example all of us can understand. There is no problem. That's what makes us very pedant, very pedantic in our approach. You see, we can just learn these things, and then rattle off. That's not a big problem. In fact, that's little easy. All that you should have is a good memory. That's about it. If you have a good memory, you can repeat. You see. Now, what he's saying here is, example, you just have to gulp in the idea. Swallow it as of now. You can't digest it. Don't try to digest this idea. That is why in the entire chapter, he is supposed to be analyzing the self, the spirit, Atman, Brahman should be analyzed. You would not find any analysis on Brahman here. At best, what he is doing is he just gives certain methods to which we can postulate the existence of Brahman. That's about it. How we can detect, he gives two different pointers and then explains that with the example. I'll just go to it a little later. Right. Now, what you have to understand here is your personality matter has no life in it. What is that matter? Matter is divided into three aspects: body, mind, intellect. Body has two sets of organs: organs of perception, organs of action. Somewhere, some of you may remember, we studied that in the 3rd chapter of VT. Okay, we studied all these things there. But he's just repeating it he's quickly refreshing it, giving certain lessons. Okay, now you got to pick up few lessons from that idea here, which is our independent study. Now we have to pick it up, few things. But he's only repeating the basic concept. He says, body has two sets of organs: organs of perception, organs of action. Organs of perception: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. These are the 5 organs of perception. Then organs of action: speech, tongue or mouth, whatever you call it, tongue, hands, feet, organ of evacuation, organ of procreation. These are the 5 organs of action. Body houses these 2 sets of organs. Now here when we say organs of action, we are not going into the derivation of it, how it has come in, from where it came, what is the material made up of this, from where it all came. That's not the analysis as of now. All that you have to remember is only this much. Very, very basic one we are studying. First step. Basic constitution. In that basic constitution, what we understand is this. This body, mind and intellect is what is transacting with the world. World means what? Anything other than you is world. Means world has objects and beings. So you transact, you interact with the world. Means you interact with objects and beings. Beings can be either a plant, animal, human. It could be anything. Or objects. Like your mobile phone or your computer is an object. It's not a live being. But if you have a plant in your house, that's a live being. So you can interact with that, or you can interact with an animal, you can interact with a human. However, anything other than you, all this put together is considered as world. Now, how that interaction happens? He says the interaction starts from receiving the stimuli from the world. You receive the stimulus from the world through organs of perception. Organs of perception gives you the stimuli. Now, that stimulus received, the sight, the smell, the taste, all that is received by the fragrance, sound, all the world sends the stimuli, your organs of perception receives, known as Jnanendriyas. It's known as Jnanendriya, organs of knowledge. Jnanam means through that only you understand the world, what is happening, what is there. You register, you know the world through that. That's why it is known as Jnanendriyas in Sanskrit. Then that stimulus reaches your mind, and it starts setting in a reaction. Your mind is made up of likes and dislikes, desires, emotions. Now, when that stimulus starts reacting with your mind and responses back to the world through organs of action, those actions were called as stressful actions. In the equation, world is there, sending the signals. Through your organs of perception, you are receiving the signal. Who is receiving it, sir? Body doesn't receive. Who is receiving is the mind. And what that mind is supposed to do is, he is supposed to receive and submit to the intellect. Instead of submitting that stimulus to the intellect, for the intellect to process and decide what sort of a response should be given back, the mind itself reacts with that and sends the responses back to the world. That sort of a responded actions were called stressful actions. When your mind receives the stimuli, when the organs of perceptions receives the stimulus, reaches to the mind, and the mind itself reacts and responds back to the world, means stress. Instead, if it goes through the entire process, through the black lines, where it submits the information to the intellect to process, and the intellect processes it and decides the course of action and sends back the instructions to the organs of actions. This is the response you are supposed to give. That sort of a response is that objective responses. Then you are leading an objective life. This is the basic process of the entire equation. Now, here, few things we need to remember. He puts it in a very subtle way. Now, I can't be, going into that, details. Now, you people have to dig it out on your own. Now, this is what we do in the live class. When you're doing a live class, we read that paragraph and then extract the points. How he presents it. Now, here, we cannot do, because I have to ask you people to dig, explain, and then I have to come in, and then we do that. That's more of that interactive things we have to do. Now, through this online and all, we can't do that. So I'm just giving you the things which we dig it out. The first thing we dig out here is, at the stage of the stimulus itself, many mistakes we make. Right? The first blunder we all make is, first misunderstanding we have with reference to the stimuli is, the stimulus has inherent quality. Remember that. Lesson 1 that you have to learn here is, every stimulus has an inherent quality. Every smell has an inherent quality. Inherent quality, immediately you have to go back to the basic thing that we have studied in the previous chapter. The moment we say quality, immediately you go back to the 3, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. Every sound, there is Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Every smell, there is Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Every taste, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. Everything that you are interacting in the world has that. The stimulus has an inherent quality. 1. Like you are having inherent qualities in you, the stimulus also has inherent qualities in them. Number one. Number two, with reference to stimulus, is you cannot change the quality of the stimulus. Full stop. That's the second message. But what do we do in life? Everyone saying things, they say that because of what? That's their nature. That is what they will say. That is what they will do. Dog will bark. You don't expect a dog to sing a song, isn't it? Nightingale sings, correct. A dog cannot sing. You see, tiger, ferocious. Inherent nature of tiger is ferocious, that's all. You can't change that, you see. Same way, human beings also have their own inherent nature. That is what he will say. That is what she will say. That is what he will do. That is what she will do. Nothing can be done. That stimulus receiving, you have no option. You just cannot do anything about it. Then what happens, sir? Then where is the growth? Where is life then? Says, stimulus cannot be changed. Stimulus has an inherent quality. But you who is going to be reacting to that stimulus has a choice. You have a choice. How to react to that stimulus. Stimulus has a quality. There is no doubt about it. You cannot change that, please. Right? It has, if it is bad, it is bad. Full stop. Nothing can be done about it. You can't do anything. But second thing that you learn, or the third lesson, whatever you call it as. Okay. I'm just saying one by one, 2, 3. The next thing that we learn in this equation, this receive, reaction, response, in this entire formula, second thing that we learn is, or the third thing that we learn here is, that your reaction will be different. Stimuli will be the same. Okay. Same stimulus produces many reactions. You see, the same stimulus. In that lies your freedom, liberation, evolution, everything. If the stimulus and the reaction were to be same, then you are shackled. You are bound. There is no freedom possibility for life in life at all for a human. We say there is a freedom possibility for human. Why? Is because of this important gap, space, where same stimulus, different reactions to people. Here comes the entire equation. That is why entire spirituality is addressed only to mind and intellect. There is no instructions we find in spiritual with reference to the stimulus. What you should do. Now, in management, you study only that. What you do with this stimulus. What you do with the world. What you do with the others. You see, how you deal with people. Everyone comes and asks me, how I deal with people. You cannot deal with anybody. Why? They send a stimulus to you, and stimulus cannot be altered. And every stimulus has a quality. Nothing can be done. If it is a negative stimulus, it is a negative stimulus. What can you do for that? We want what? I want to change that nature. That's the first lesson in Vedanta. This 3 reactions, receipt, reaction, and responses that he is explaining here is only to reiterate this point. Now, stimulus comes, say for example, I see someone suffering. I see someone in pain. Okay. I see the person suffering. I register that. I see. I register there is pain. Now comes 3 possibilities. Creates 3 probabilities now. First probability is, what is my problem? Right. He is suffering. Like, we see a person who is begging in the street. Right. He is suffering, poor fellow. He is struggling to walk. He comes. He is begging. You see, and then you move. Of course, you do register. It's not that you don't register. You do register, but you don't react at all. Why you don't react? I'm not saying immediately you have to, empty your purse and give it to him. I'm not saying that, please. Okay. I'm talking about what is happening to you internally. Internally, what is happening, not responses, please. We are discussing only at the second stage, reaction level. Internally, what happens to you? Nothing happens. Why nothing happens? Because it doesn't touch my body, my mind, my intellect. That's the base. When I see that man in pain, that person in pain, or that person in penury, starvation, suffering, etc., it doesn't touch my personality at all. As we were reading about the earthquake, about 60,000 people rendered homeless. As the person is reading, he is shouting at his wife, no salt in sambar. You see, he gets annoyed. Why there is no salt? So 60,000 people rendered homeless versus sambar little less salt. Which affects him more? You see, the sambar in my plate, less salt, is more impactful for me than that. That doesn't mean I did not register it. I register it. Of course, I read. Of course, I know what is the meaning of 60,000 people rendered homeless. Who are the 60,000 people? It is not that 60,000 were homeless from the beginning. No. Till yesterday, they were living perhaps a better home than what I am living today. You see, it's not that they have not been, homeless doesn't mean that. Homeless means the person who was fully settled. Everything was set. Suddenly the whole thing is gone. Like we had, last month or a month before, one of our students had sent a message that I'm not able to attend few classes. I said, what happened? The house is blown away. They sent some pictures also. Unbelievable to see. You see all that. And then you say what? No salt in sambar. This is one. Second one is, I react according to my likes and dislikes. If I like one reaction, I don't like another reaction. That stimulus comes in, that stimulus starts reacting with my existing likes and dislikes. Second possibility. Third possibility is the stimulus is not allowed to be reacting with the likes and dislikes. It is submitted to the intellect to process. And depending upon the strength of that intellect, the processing will happen. Right? Just because it is submitted to the intellect doesn't mean it is perfect. Not necessarily. Depending upon the strength of that intellect, how much that intellect is developed, depending on that, reactions will happen. Now, the first reaction, response is different. Second reaction, the response is different. Third reaction, the response is different. Vedanta says, don't worry about the receipt, don't worry about the responses. Concentrate on reaction. In that reaction comes the second message, second idea. That is, stimulus being the same, different reactions comes about, depending on what, sir? Depending on the relative strength between mind and intellect. Whether the mind and intellect is developed or not. Depending on that, the reaction will happen. If the mind is developed, likes and dislikes will react. Depending upon my likes and dislikes, I will throw my response to the world. Like that poem Pond, he explains. That poem Pond, this lady Jean Taylor, she says, beautifully she explains how the thing is. It appears there was a pond, and near the pond was a chicken with the chicks living there, and the duck and the ducklings. Right? The chick was in front with the ducklings. They play together. They're playmates. And the mother of the chick called and said, hey, I don't mind you playing with them, with the ducklings, but be careful. The moment they go into water, you don't run behind. Because you all know the behavior. It keeps running behind. Anything goes in front, it'll run behind. And one day, when the mother was not there, around, the chick started thinking. It started analyzing, reasoning, saying, the mother has cautioned me that I should not go into water. Why I should not go into water? What's wrong with me? It says, for all that I see, my feet, my feather are as good as theirs. I don't see any reason in this. The only thing that I see the difference is my beak is pointed and their beaks are round. Is that the reason that I should be drowned? Even in Supreme Court, answer will be what? No. It ventured into water, stating I am remarkably fond of water. And you don't have to know the fate of the chick. You see? That's what he says. The stimulus there, but it's all different. Depends on what? Depends on the quality of your buddhi. Remember, if your mind has a tremendous liking, it clouds the thinking of your intellect. That is why The best part of the poem is this. It says, for what I see, my feet, my feather. The best part is that. In the poem is this for me. It sees the feet and still it says it's the same. Is the feet of the chicken and the duck same? No. Ducks have got a webbed feet. That's why they can swim. It's not having a web. It sees the feet. Suppose if it is not seeing the feet, we can say, see, it has not taken into consideration the feet, man. Poor thing. The data is incomplete. Like in science, they say, the data is incomplete. Incomplete data. So do a few more. Like people tell me, get some more fact finding. I say, how many facts you need for you to come to this conclusion? You see, you have to get certain facts, but how many facts is needed? At what point you are going to say all facts have been collected? You cannot. You see, all facts can never be collected because we don't know what is all facts means. But here the point is beautiful. It says it takes into consideration the feet, but still the feet is it's not the same. It's different. Still, it cannot see that. That's what Krishna in the Gita says. Ya pashyati sa pashyati. Whoever sees it, sees it. If you don't see it, you can't see it. It is seeing, but still not seeing. It is seeing the feet, but still it's not seeing the feet. Why? It's clouded completely. Why is that? I am remarkably fond of water. It rushes into water. Why? This same thing, but still the reactions will differ. Depending on what? Depending on the relative strength of mind and intellect. Your likes and dislikes, emotions and desires. That's mind. Intellect means your thinking capacity, your ability to discriminate, ability to understand what is what. That's called buddhi. Now, once you understand this, then comes the fourth message. Next thing that we come to realization is this. Now, reaction can be happening with reference to your mind's desires, likes and dislikes. Or intellect may process it and then perform. That processing and performing actions is called obligatory life. You live your life on obligations. That is where you live a selfless life. Life becomes selfless. Obligation. Obligations means that. Obligations means you live a selfless life. Selflessness means this, where your intellect is processing and deciding the course of action, where you don't claim your rights over anything. You just perform your duties. Is it my obligation? Am I supposed to do that? What am I supposed to do? Thus, when you do, your actions becomes selfless in the relative sense, meaning you perform obligatory actions. You focus on your obligations. You see that man suffering. Question is, am I obligated to save him? Is it my obligation? Is it my duty? Is it my duty to do? What am I supposed to do? He questions that. If I have to do it, I do it. On what basis, sir? On the basis of his goal in life. On the basis of his goal, he decides his obligations. Obligations are decided based on the goal that you have in life. Your duties. your life is not to be based on rights. Because why you should not base your life on rights? Because today, everywhere, people talk about rights only. What is the right of a husband? There's a new movement that started now. Men's liberation. You know that? Women's liberation is all the old one. Now there is a men's liberation. There. Everywhere we discuss only in terms of the rights. What is the problem there? What you need to understand is, no one in the world is obligated to cater to your rights. They are not obligated to cater to your rights. So what will happen? They will not cater to your rights. When the world is not catering to your rights and you keep claiming that as your rights, end result is what? Agitation, stress, and strife. You suffer. That's the problem with rights. You say, I have my right. Yes, you have a right. But the problem is, the other person is not obligated to fulfill your right. Which means, he will not fulfill. When he is not fulfilling, or when she is not fulfilling, when the world is not fulfilling, when the world is not catering to your rights, what happens to you? Agitation. Therefore, Vedanta says in the beginning itself, base your life on obligations. Sensible way to live life is what? To do your duties. That's it. That's where the problem comes to all of us. The problem for all of us is, majority don't work, don't do anything, don't do their obligations. A small minority who perform their obligations and then they can't wait. They want results quickly. This is the problem. The moment you do your duties, immediately you want what? Result. There is a gap, remember, between sowing the seed and getting the fruit. There is a gap. It may take 5 years, it may take 10 years, it may take 12 years, it may take 6 months. But definitely it is not going to be, I planted today and tomorrow morning there is a giant tree. That's fiction. It's a fairy tale. You see, you drop the seed, it starts growing. It never happens like that in life. Only weeds grow like that. The crops never grow like that. Weeds grow overnight. Cultivation will not happen like that. Your bindi, your brinjal and tomatoes don't grow like that. You just plant one night, and next day morning you have tomatoes. It never comes that way. But the weeds grow like that. The cultivation, you have to struggle to get it. There is a time gap between doing all that you got to do and then wait for that to produce, give the result. That's where Krishna says, Karmanyevadikaraste mahaleshu gadachana. Yes, your duty is only action, man, not in the fruit. Don't worry about the fruit of action. Why? Once you get in there, you can't wait for that. That waiting period is the most difficult time to pass out. And your desires and likes and dislikes are so strong, they never allow you. That's where intellect comes into picture and says, I have to wait for that period. What helps you to go through that entire phase is the phase of surrender. That's where surrender comes. You see, otherwise there's no need of surrender. People ask, why should I surrender? I say, you don't have to surrender, strictly speaking. But the problem in life is that if you don't have that attitude of surrender, devotion, surrender to the laws of nature, laws of life, is itself. I have worked, it has to produce the result. It is impossible that I am not going to be rewarded for my efforts. It is not possible. nature, the law of karma has to give the result. But when the result will come, that I don't have a say. Therefore, let me patiently wait. That waiting we cannot do. That is where when intellect reacts, it considers all these factors, all the principles, all the laws of life. It aligns all those things to the current stimulus and decides the course of action, what I should be doing, how I should be living my life. There, when you are doing, it is selfless life. Means, irrespective of what is happening outside, meaning, irrespective of the stimulus, irrespective of the response, because when my actions becomes a stimulus to you, and your actions, your responses becomes a stimulus to me, it doesn't matter what happens outside. I continue to perform my obligation. What is the only obligation I have? The only obligation I have in life is to give. There is no other obligation. There is nothing else I have to do. The only thing I have to do is to give. Focusing only on just giving, reaction, and responses to the world also goes as service to the world. That is where your actions become selfless. The height of that is evolution, self-realization, where effortlessly selflessness comes out of it. That is a state of self-realization, evolution. And that is the next message that he gives. To an evolved person, how he lives, irrespective of what is happening outside, irrespective of anything that is happening, anything that is thrown at him, anything that is available around him, anything that happens around him, he is peaceful internally. So principle is this. Derivations are many. Now this is how we are supposed to study. Now whenever we are studying every concept, what we are supposed to do is like this. Now what you study is the principle. Principle he gives is this. He says, body has two sets of organs. Organs of perception, organs of action. Then mind, intellect. Stimulus is received through the organs of perception and submitted to the mind. In fact, mind is receiving the stimulus. It is supposed to submit it to the intellect. Instead of submitting, if the mind itself reacts and throws back the response, pain, problem in life, stress in life. You want a peaceful life, then what you should do? You don't have to do anything with reference to the stimulus. You don't have to worry about the response also. All that you have to work is only with reference to this mind and intellect. What is the meaning of mind and intellect, sir? Meaning, mind has to be under the check of the intellect. When the mind is under the check of the intellect, you get this. What is the proof? Your life becomes selfless. Your actions that you are throwing back, your responses become selfless. That's the test. But that's not the effort. So, there is no need to put in any effort with reference to the responses. There is no possibility to do anything with reference to the receipt. Then entire spiritual work is only where? Only with reference to mind and intellect. Therefore, entire Shastras, if you take, scriptures if you take, they talk only two things. One side, they talk about mind, nature of mind, how the mind behaves, how it causes problems to you, how you have to build intellect, what is the role of intellect, etc. One extreme. Mind and intellect, mind and intellect, mind and intellect, mind and intellect. If they leave this part, you see them suddenly switching over to self, Atman. That's exactly what he does here. He talks about matter. Matter, what is he talking about, sir? He says, forget about organs of perception, forget about organs of action. Concentrate only about mind and intellect. And then switches to the other extreme, that is Atman. So entire Shastras, if you see, they will be discussing between these two things. Either they will discuss mind and intellect, or they will be discussing Atman. There is nothing else they talk about. They don't discuss about the stimulus. They don't discuss about the sufferings of the world, the problems of the world. This is happening, that is happening. How can he say that? How can he do this? Why she said that to me that way? You know, why he did this like this? They should not have been done like this. No, nothing doing. They don't care about anything, because fundamental rule is what? Stimulus has an inherent quality and it cannot be changed. 2 points. Then comes reaction. In the reaction, same stimulus, various reactions. Why? Because of the relative strength of mind and intellect. Relative strength of mind and intellect means what? 3 reaction possibilities. Then responses will be according to the reaction. What is the final condition, sir? Okay, I take care of all those things. So what? That is, independent of whatever is happening around you, you live life peacefully. It's not selfishness, please. Immediately people think, is it indifference? It's not indifference. Remember, this is not indifference. Because his actions are all selfless. So you can't call this man indifferent. Because many of us have come to conclusion like this now. Spiritual person means he is the most selfish fellow today in the world. Now ulta. Selfless personality is treated by all of us as selfish personality. That shows the grossness of our ignorance. Even the so-called scholars also talk like that. So-called, authorities on spirituality also talk like this. Shows utter ignorance of the fundamentals of spirituality. Selfishness comes into picture. Why? Only when the stimulus I will react only if it is affecting my body, my mind, my intellect. If it is not going to be affecting my body, my mind, my intellect, my emotions, my likes and dislikes, my beliefs, my values, if it is not connected to me, then I don't react. That is called selfish. Unselfishness is what, sir? Unselfishness is slightly better. What is it? I have a concern for the other person's body, mind, intellect. Which is slightly better, no doubt about it. But still, it is affecting the other person's body, affecting the other person's mind, affecting the other person's intellect. To the extent that I can understand the affectation happening to your body, mind, intellect. What is the meaning of this, Ishvara? You see a person met with an accident, multiple fracture. How much you feel? You're able to feel that, right? You can see the person's pain. One side. The other side, when a person says, I am depressed, I am disturbed, we can't even understand that. Many of us say, what's your problem? A person comes and tells, I am highly disturbed. You say, what is your problem? You have enough money, you have enough name, you have enough fame, you are having everything fine in your life. And then what is that to get depressed? you can't even understand their problem. You see? Why? Because you can identify easily when the pain is with reference to the body, manifestation, expressed. When it is not visible, the mental trauma the person goes through is not visible. Most of us can't even understand that. I can't understand what's the problem here. Why are you getting angry for this? Many times we say, isn't it? Why are you getting angry, man, for this? I just said that. Why are you overreacting to it? No, it has hurt that person so deeply. Do you realize? Do you register? We don't even register that. We just say things. We just do things without caring. Which is what is referred as your ability to identify. That is possible only when you are not bringing in your likes and dislikes in the reaction. Lesser and lesser you bring in your likes and dislikes interfering in the reaction, you become unselfish. Unselfish, unselfish, unselfish. More and more and more you become refined that unselfishness, you get selfless. You get established in that selflessness, that is self-realization. Absolute. Receipt, reaction, response. What is the proof of that, sir? Is the next message we get out of this. What happens to that personality, sir? An evolved person, a spiritually evolved being, is one who is peaceful internally, irrespective of any stimulus. That is spiritual evolution. Now, from this portion onwards, we will not be moving faster. Right? We'll go slow. So don't expect us to complete the chapter quickly. Like in the previous sessions, I was going pretty fast. Almost like 2 sessions per chapter we were doing. But now we cannot do like this. So you have to go back and read that same thing, which is just, one page we have completed. Human composition, we have covered only 1 page. Now go back, read again, and think over. Then come back to the next session. Thank you.